Tonight, I want to address an important topic that has gained considerable attention in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and communities across the country, e-bike usage and safety concerns. Over the past few years, the popularity of electric bikes, known as e-bikes, has increased significantly. These bikes offer an eco-friendly mode of transportation for residents, particularly our young people. However, with their growing use, there has been a corresponding rise in accidents and injuries, especially among children and teenagers. Eric, can you do the next slide, please? And so the verbiage on here is a bit small, but there are presentations for our last two that has a slide deck, and then there's binders in front of you that has a lot of information that you can read at your own discretion. All right, next slide. Eric, next slide, please. All right, so as we look to address this issue, it's important to understand the legal framework surrounding e-bikes. According to the California Vehicle Code Section 231, e-bikes are classified as bicycles, meaning that they follow the same rules of the road as traditional bikes. They don't require registration, insurance, or even a driver's license. But their operational components, the motorized parts, introduce safety and operational concerns. So as you can see here on the quote, what's unique about e-bikes, and according to the California Vehicle Code, is that they have to have fully operable pedals, an electric motor of less than 750 watts. Those are two things to take away from that slide. All right, next, please. All right, so the question is always, what's the difference between class 1, 2, and 3? There are some variances, but the main thing that I want you to look at this, when you look at these three bikes, do you see huge variations? I don't. So these are all electric bikes. Your type 1 and 2 go no faster than 20 miles per hour. Your type 3, 28. You do have to be 16 years old or older to ride a type 3. And then there's pedal assist and throttle assist differences between the three. So next slide, please. So this is a nice graph, and again, there's different slideshows that'll show this. But there's particulars between the three. All of these are legal. All of these are able to be street worthy. There are two that you can use on Bike Pass, which is your type 1, type 2, and then your regular bikes that I grew up with. Your type 3 cannot be on Bike Pass, and then none of your electric bikes are allowed on our city trails. And that's one of the big things that we have gotten a lot of phone calls about, so I just want to reiterate that one. All right, next slide. So you're going to see next couple of slides, there's differences between your e-bikes, your e-motorcycles, motorcycles. Again, all of these differences, keep in mind, are your speed and then your motor itself. So a e-motorcycle, motorcycle, or motor-driven cycle. So under California law, any self-propelled vehicle that exceeds 30 miles per hour, that's bolded intentionally, whether powered by gasoline or electricity, is known as a motorcycle. These can be e-motorcycles, motorcycles, motor-driven cycles. But with all of these, you do have to have a driver's license. So obviously, our youth who are, and this one looks very much like a motorcycle, as you see in the next slide. Eric, next slide. All right, so this one is what we've also seen on our roadways. This one is a motorized bike. Again, different variances. You can read through part of the slide. It does require a driver's license. And again, the power output is important. For this one, the maximum speed is 30 miles per hour. With the one before that, it's any e-motorcycles are ones that go, faster than your 30 miles per hour. So again, asking these questions between parents and people who buy them is an important question to ask. Because when I look at this one, this looks very much like an e-bike to me. It's not. This one in particular is also illegal on roads itself. So again, that's one of those questions where if you're, maybe a person with a driver's license and you see this at the store and you think, oh, that looks cool. That's illegal to ride on our roadways within our city, even on a highway. Eric, next slide. And the reason being is that a lot of these bikes are also classified as off-highway electric motorcycle classifications. And our deputies who are here can speak more to that. They're the ones out on our streets. But there's popular brands such as Surron, Talaria, Segway, E-Ride Pro. So all of these you can find on websites. You can buy these. They are allowed on private lands, which is, it's such a small majority or small percentage of where you can actually ride these. So They are legal to be sold, but where you can ride them is basically illegal. So I think it's an important question to ask. What am I buying? What is the speed? Where can I ride it? And then is it going to be confiscated? And am I going to be cited for it? And those are all things that are in relation to not just the look, but the power, whether or not they have pedals. For this one in particular, the question has been asked, if I put aftermarket pedals, can it now be an e-bike or an e-motorcycle? The question is still, or the answer is still no. These are all still illegal to be driven on roadways. Next slide, please. Okay. So medical professionals have raised alarms about the increase in pediatric injuries related to e-bikes. Studies show that children and teenagers are more susceptible to severe injuries compared to traditional e-bikes, traditional bikes due to higher speeds and motorized nature of e-bikes. Many of these injuries are compounded by the lack of helmet use and general inexperience. So the number that you see up here, 24,400, in 2022 alone, that's the number of emergency department visits. And this is all through Consumer Product Safety Commission from September of 2023. So you can take a look at that report at your own leisure, but that's an incredibly high number, and it is climbing. Right, next slide, please. Okay, so in response to the increase in incidents, the city, along with the Crescento Valley Station, has launched an educational campaign earlier this year. It really started towards the end of the school year season, and then through the summer, and then with the start of this next school year. So the aim was to raise awareness about e-bike safety and regulations. And while this campaign has been very helpful, we're still seeing significant non-compliance, particularly among minors. By midsummer, our deputies started issuing citations as e-bike incidents continued to rise, particularly around high traffic areas, such right out front in town center. I think town center is what makes this an issue. You'll see one of my slides, but there's other surrounding cities that really don't have this concern, this issue. And I think town center right here is really unique to our city. And I think it creates this e-bike safety campaign awareness, and then why we're having this presentation, Mayor. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, our staff, Arbo, our intern Madison, has called to different cities to find out if this is an issue, what ordinances they're looking at. And as you can see, San Fernando is the only city that is doing a comprehensive mobility ordinance, and that includes e-bike. It's not just directly about e-bikes. The Bay cities, the oceanside cities, are the ones that have always had a bicycle issue concern, safety issue. And of course, now with e-bikes, it continues to be, but within our neighboring areas, this has not been a significant concern for them. All right, next slide. All right, so let me recap, because I'm going to hand this presentation over to our deputies who can tell you they're our eyes and ears, and they're the ones who are issuing citations out on the streets. But as we move forward, I believe that we need a balanced approach to ensure the safety of our residents while preserving the benefits of e-bikes. This includes continued collaboration with our local law enforcement to improve enforcement and educational efforts. I also look forward to receiving any direction from City Council on developing new policies or regulations specific to e-bikes, ensuring we prioritize safety while accommodating this growing mode of transportation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city staff, and public safety executives. I just want to take a quick moment to introduce myself and my partner, Brian Chun. I am here with Philip Demerjian. We are your city-hired special assignment deputies. We collaboratively work with you guys as well as schools and other groups to address quality of life issues and things like this, e-bikes, and at the direction of our captain, we do directed patrols, saturation, and burglary suppression, things like that. Real quick, I'll touch on two topics, the bottom right and the top left, and then Philip will cover the other two. Some of the enforcement challenges, as you can imagine, are because the kids are not riding by themselves, they're riding with a group. And I don't know if it emboldens them, but we don't want to risk their safety, obviously. So if they do take off, I mean, we'll make a reasonable effort to, we'll put on our lights and siren and things like that. But if they take off at a high rate of speed, whether it be on Foothill or some small side street, we're not going to pursue them like you see on TV. It's just too dangerous, and we are not going to risk them being injured just because, you know, we're going to give them a ticket with a couple infractions. We don't believe that it's worth it. We believe the education aspect is obviously more important because if they were to know, then they might not be taking off from us. But as far as the top left quadrant monitoring e-bikes, there have been some citations that not myself personally, but I've been involved in with my partners. And a notable one is when we did pull over a juvenile near this town center area. He was given 11 infractions, and with the cost of the bike, I will point out in the next slide, these Surons and Talarios are not cheap. They range from about $2,000 to about $8,000. So with that being said, if you purchase a bike that's $8,000 and then you tack on a citation with 11 infractions, which equals over $3,300, how much are you paying? You know, and as a parent, I don't know if any parent would be too happy with that, right? So, but we have been issuing citations, and to be frank, these are kind of the more serious riders. So we still have to, you know, at least enforce the law. But yeah, so we've cited 2 juvies in July, one in mid-August, and another one towards the end of August. And like I said, the infractions vary, you know, just from failing to stop at a red light, unsafe turns or unsafe lane changes, failing to yield to our vehicles, things like that. But as Jen mentioned, they are not street legal because they don't have the equipment on them. They're meant to be bought and just played with on your own private property. But with that being said, let me pass it over to Philip for the other 2, and then we'll wrap it up with the last slide.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and pleasure to be part of the team. To get into what some of our efforts have been regarding public awareness and parental and minor knowledge, some stuff that us as the Sheriff's Department at Crescenta Valley Station and the city staff has been doing is blasting information on our social media pages regarding what's legal, what's safe, and what's not. On top of that, myself and some of my partners, we talk to some of these kids when we see them riding bicycles out there, whether they're legal e-bikes or not, just to give them more information on it, what is legal. Some kids have come up to us as well as parents and asked us about the legality and the safety issues and everything. So we are doing one-on-one educating outside, as well as when we do neighborhood watch meetings and block parties. We did 2 of them. I believe it was this past weekend. We were able to inform many residents and parents that we were talking to about e-bike safety, the rules, what's legal and what's not. On top of that, we are working with our school resource deputy, who is also in connection with the school in educating the students at the school level, and also coming up with some kind of registration form that the school will make sure that the bicycle the child is riding onto their property is legal and safe. So with that, that's some of the stuff that we're doing for public awareness. Something like this is also good for public awareness and knowledge. And I'm going to pass it back on to my partner, Deputy Chun, for the next slide. I just want you guys to remember the legal limit for these e-bikes is 750 watts for the motor. So the next slide, you guys will see what's not legal.
Okay, so just real quick, 750 watts, like Jen and Philip mentioned, is the wattage. If you look at, if you can move that text box just to the top, sir, thank you. Look at the 3rd one, the Suron Stormbee, that goes 68 miles an hour with 22,000 watts. So, I mean, I don't even like going that fast on Foothill in my car, but imagine that going down Foothill with the kid, even if he has a helmet or not. So just as a reference, because this is a reference guide, this is what can be bought, and it can just be unboxed in your front garage and ridden. That's the moment it gets dropped off to your house. So we just want everyone to know what it looks like and what they're capable of, speeds and wattage wise. But we wanted to put this out there because admittedly, not everyone, even ourselves, we had to learn about what they look like and how fast they go and things like that. But I can pass it over to Jen, and then maybe we can wrap it up with questions if there are any.
I just want to conclude and just say thank you. City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you for your concern. To the staff, Arbo and admin, they helped me put this presentation together. And of course, to our deputies who are out on the road, to our sheriff who's supporting us, making sure the other deputies are writing citations. I just want to say thank you. This really is a collaboration. It's a team effort, and that's what makes it happen. The anecdotal message, I think, just recently is that they are starting to see less kids, doing illegal maneuvers. I think we've gotten a pretty decent handle on the number of illegal bikes. They visited the different schools within the community to inform our educators, principals, parents, hey, this bike right here that you have, it's not street legal. So it's been a good collaborative effort. It comes with a lot of education, like they said. The scary thing is you can go, I've looked at several websites, probably too many at this point. And it is shocking to me how these are on websites. You can immediately buy them, and there's no reference onto whether or not these are off-highway vehicles or just e-bikes. So the question does have to be asked. It is not something that's going to come out there blatantly. And if you don't know that you're looking for 750 watts, who would? That's the question to ask. So thank you very much. If you have any questions.
Do you have any questions for staff or?
I just wanted to say thank you. This was really comprehensive and helpful, and I had no idea about just how large those motors could be. So I think that's great. And I actually have not seen a wheelie since school started. So something has worked. Thank you very much.
And I just wanted to thank you as well. And I was wondering, are we going to be working on signage at all for the streets
Specifically, what kind of signage?
about what's allowed, what's not allowed on sidewalks or within the streets at all? Or are we trying to handle it through a permitting process? I understand with the school, which is great that we're partnering there too as well. But do you feel the need for signage at all?
So let me tackle that one, council member. So when it comes to signage and Majid can fill in the rest, there are specific regulations we have to follow because those are traffic laws. So we can't actually put quote unquote informational signage. However, the next Vista article that is hitting the houses before the festivities in winter is going to have a specific article about e-bikes. And we're actually trying to figure out ways to include some of the information graphically, like the voltage. Do you know the voltage of your, I think that's the key right there. Just parents understanding that. So we'll be doing, and that will hit each household in La Cañada Flint Ridge.
Okay, great. Because I know when I walk my dog on the sidewalk and I'm like, could this be even on the sidewalk
Correct.
at all?
Correct.
So, okay, great.
So for clarity's sake, no bikes allowed on the sidewalk, correct?
So within our own municipal code, there is no mention of bicycles or e-bikes. It specifically says that wheeled toys is not an e-bike. So our recommendation is for our own municipal code would be to maybe update that language.
Yeah, so thank you. Regardless, I mean, we've got a number of classifications here. So let's just start with if it's actually an off-road dirt bike, you're not supposed to have it
So-
anywhere in our space. So let's just put those in a pile. They're all illegal. Don't do them. Don't use them. Right. And I think to the point made also, right. Young people without training. I mean, the reason you have to take special training and have an M1 is because they can be very dangerous, right? And this is my grade 3 separated AC joint over here speaking, right? And I was an adult when I did it. I can only imagine what kids are thinking. So let's just put those aside. All of those are not allowed, and that's an enforcement issue as well as an education issue, as you've laid out. And I'm very confident that between the measures discussed and what you're talking about, we're good there. I think the bigger questionable space for us then becomes the actual e-bikes that are not motorcycles, your pedal bike through class 3 E. And so I'm looking at this chart presented as slide 5. Is it ever legal for someone to ride tandem on the back of one of these bicycles if there isn't a separate seat for it?
So California Vehicle Code specifically states that if more than one person is going to be on there, there has to be a seat made for 2.
Even if it's just a regular pedal
Even
bicycle,
if it's a regular bike, it must have an actual seat meant for a second rider.
Yeah. And then Councilmember Fossen got to, other places. And the part of the way I started thinking about this from a regulatory framework was Orange County implemented some additional regulations for unincorporated OC, and then there's a spreadsheet you can download with every city's specific vehicular code laid out. I think I found it through an LAist article this summer or something, and I started thinking about it that way, that we probably need to think more modernly about how we have defined our mobility, right? That wheeled toy, when it was written, probably meant roller skates, right? They didn't want kids riding their roller skates down ACH, which I still, to be clear, do not want kids riding their roller skates probably down ACH. But then in the 90s, when I was growing up, it was rollerblades, right? And they're both wheeled toys, but this is something different. And it really is an escalation. And part of what I want to be thoughtful about as well is if we start updating our code to reflect mobility meaning more than just what we understand, but it's the next thing that gets invented that they stick a battery on and they do something with it. If we're thoughtful about the way we craft them, that we could probably capture future developments in a way that we hadn't thought of yet. And so I appreciate the survey of surrounding communities. I think likely we could come up with some best practices and we don't have to reinvent any particular wheel. But I think where I'm going when I think about some of the answers I've heard, some of the presentation is, what can we do to modernize our mobility related code? And I'm hearing that there's at least some thought from your all's perspective, from staff perspective, that might be a good idea. The other question I would ask then, and this might be geared towards our law enforcement folks in the room, what would you like to have that you don't have that we could give you? A new code, resources. Is there something that you say, I've got a Swiss Army knife, but I'm missing this thing, and I really wish the council could help me have it? And I'll take the captain as well. Obviously, I mean, from a policy perspective, I think the bars go first. This is the way it works.
We discuss maybe purchasing e-bikes for the deputies. We can apprehend some of these guys on the e-bikes, but that presents a problem in itself because now we need additional training.
Yeah.
And if we're going to chase after these guys, we could get hurt.
Sure.
Doing the same maneuver. So we're still discussing with the city what best options we can do and what other equipment that we could use in possibly apprehending some of these violators.
Thank you.
It's helpful. Keith, did you have any?
Yeah, I want to say first, thank you for the presentation. Appreciate all the input that went into this, all the work that you're doing. Keep up with the enforcement. I think there's this nuance of taking a e-bike, class 1, 2, or 3, and modifying it that I've seen a lot of kids do, where you can change out batteries, motors, all sorts of stuff. And we're going to have to sort of stay diligent on that, because you can take something that's legal, ordered to your house, modify it, and all of a sudden it becomes a dangerous vehicle. And I don't have an answer for that, and I don't know how to interweave policy to manage those modifications, to Kim's point about they're going to be moving multiple steps ahead of us, but I think we should look at it a little bit closer.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, agree with what everybody said. I mean, I think this was very helpful. I think it was, you know, this got brought up to bring forward during what was kind of some like crisis time in the summer, because there was you'd see them, you know, yourself, and then the deputies are chasing and not chasing and things like that. I concur that it seems like things have slowed down quite a bit, which I'd imagine some of that's attributable to school, but I also imagine some of that's attributable to your guys' efforts and that education piece. I think that my suggestion is to continue to do that education piece while looking at maybe making some refinements to the municipal code regarding mobility and skateboards and rollerblades and all that kind of stuff. So we're, you know, capturing something that 20 years ago, nobody, you know, didn't have them. So that, I mean, that would be kind of the way I would see it. So I think consistent with what kind of everybody's talking about. I think I don't want to just stop though. I think we need to move forward with things, because I think public needs that and it's still a danger and a risk and all that. So efforts to do that would be helpful. And I know that I've gone to some chamber meetings as well, and it seems to always come up in topic. So, so anyway, so it's nice that we got an update and that, so appreciate it very much.
Yeah, and I think as far as direction, for an example would be, left option is no regulation regarding sidewalks because we don't have one now. Right would be many municipalities make it 5 miles an hour if you're going to be on the sidewalk because they acknowledge that sometimes it's safer for folks to be on the sidewalk riding than, not that we have a whole ton of sidewalk, but where we do have it, that maybe the answer should be 5 miles an hour. That's an example of left right that we could maybe weigh in on, but we're not going to know to until someone has done a little bit of a dive on here's how some other communities are handling it. Here's some recommendation for updates. Here's what staff recommends based on our conversations with law enforcement and public safety. What do you all think? Those are municipal code updates that we could work. And so I think the direction is going to be, if you can do, also, I'll just say, this is one of the best presentations, right? The format, the physical component of it is nice. The slides are right. This makes it so easy for us to think about these issues and make decisions. I really appreciate it. So broadly, thank you. It's very well done. But I think the direction then would be keep going, put together some recommendations on where you see code enforcement change or code changes that might be relevant, and then bring them back to us so that we can start working those. And then separately in those public safety conversations, if it becomes a resource question, if there's something separate from municipal updates that we could be doing, we want to know about that so that we can resource y'all for your enforcement and your education work. I think that's a fair way to put the direction.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, we already have some ideas. And then Mayor, I've given the youth council the charge of coming up with something to do within their own.
That's
I
great.
left it very broad, very open, and said, do something
Yeah,
in regards to e-bike safety. All
that's a very good idea. Yeah, thank you.
right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I would suggest take a look at the city of Murrieta. It's a city that we work with, and they recently adopted an ordinance. And some of the provisions that they put in their ordinance are a prohibition on the use of headphones or earbuds while operating the e-conveyance, the use of helmets, passenger limits to manufacturer design, a requirement for lights and reflectors after sunset. They have it as a 28 mile per hour maximum speed limit. So that it captures any of them, and it provides that any e-bike that exceeds 28 miles per hour may not be operated in the city. So they also have a prohibition on riding any e-conveyance at any special event for the city, a prohibition from riding within a park, playground, or school ground unless specifically posted as authorized. So it's a pretty comprehensive ordinance, so you may want to take a look at it as a
Perfect. Thank you
good
very
starting
much.
point.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.